There's a girl who grew up in a busy city. She didn't have many friends, and the noise and chaos often made her feel out of place. Her favorite escape was the woods behind their old family cabin, where she could hear nothing but the whispers of the trees and the songs of the birds. She'd spend hours there, daydreaming about a life far away from cars and crowded streets. One day, she wandered into the woods deeper than she had ever been before, trying to clear her head after a stressful week. As she walked, she noticed the trees were getting thicker, the air cooler, and the path less familiar. She wasn't scared, just curious. Eventually, she found herself standing before a large, rickety wooden bridge. The water below was calm, but the bridge looked like it hadn't been crossed in years. She hesitated, and the boards creaked under the slightest pressure. But something inside said she had to cross it, even if she didn't know why. But halfway across the bridge began to sway, and she froze. That's when she heard something else approaching from the other side. The guy who's all about the city life, the hustle, the fast-paced energy, the constant connection to everything and everyone. But when his boss said he needed a break, he thought it was just a joke. How could he afford to take time off when there was so much to do? But orders were orders, so he found himself driving out to this secluded cabin in the middle of nowhere, phone in hand, trying to stay connected to the world he knew. After a few days, he couldn't really stand the silence anymore. He decided to walk, hoping to find something, some signal, somewhere he could catch up on emails. Wandering aimlessly until he came across an old rickety bridge over a quiet creek. It looked like something out of an old movie, and he wasn't sure it would hold his weight. But he was determined to find a signal. Phone in hand, he stepped out onto the bridge, and that's when he saw her, frozen in the middle, her face pale with fear. He could tell she didn't belong there, just like him. He tried to call out to her, but the wind swallowed his words. At first, neither of them moved. They were both strangers to this place, both feeling out of their depths. But as they stood there and they made eye contact, something clicked. It wasn't about the bridge. It wasn't about the creek. So the guy puts his phone away, realizing that for once, this was something he couldn't control with a call or an email. He had to trust himself and her. As they made eye contact, he could see the fear in her eyes dwindling. Slowly, they started walking towards each other, each step making the bridge groan and sway. But instead of panicking, they found themselves focusing in on each other like they were the only two people in the world. As the space between them started to shrink, he held out his hand, and after a moment of hesitation, she took it. Together, they started walking, step by step, across the rest of the bridge. It wasn't easy, and the wind picked up. The boards beneath their feet seemed ready to give way, but somehow they made it to the other side. As they both stepped onto the solid ground, they looked back at the bridge. It was still standing, but it felt like it was miles away, a different part of the world. The two strangers, from completely different worlds, found something new within themselves, within the woods. In a place neither of them belonged, they discovered that they were stronger and braver than they had ever imagined. They didn't exchange names. They never saw each other again, but that moment on the bridge would stay with them forever.